In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can use Sharpen AI from within Adobe Photoshop. Now, there are several ways that you can do this, but I want to show you my favorite way because I think it's the most flexible. So I've got this photo here, and you can see if I zoom in very clearly, it looks like there is a little bit of motion blur in the photo, which is to be expected when photographing wildlife, especially birds. And so this is an ideal situation where you'd want to send your photo through Sharpen AI. The first thing I'm going to want to do is duplicate the original layer. To do that, I'll right click on it and go to duplicate layer. And then I'm going to rename it to Sharpen AI just to make it easier to identify in the future. Now, because I'm all about future proofing, I'm going to convert this layer to a smart object. And to do that, I'm going to right click and then select convert to smart object. Doing so will allow me to return to Sharpen AI and have access to all of the edits that I make in case I want to make any changes. And you'll know that it's a smart object because on the lower right corner of the thumbnail preview, you'll see that little smart object icon. Now we're ready to send this layer to Sharpen AI. And to do that, I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to select Topaz Labs and then Topaz Sharpen AI. Once in Sharpen AI, the first thing I'm going to do is click on the View dropdown and select Comparison View. And then I'm going to change my zoom to 200%, put the focus box on the bird's head. The nice thing about the comparison view is that it gives me a convenient 4-up display where on the top left quadrant, that's always the original photo. And then the remaining 3 quadrants show the 3 different AI modes: motion blur, out of focus, and too soft. Now between these 3 modes, motion blur looks the best. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to click on the other 2 modes to see how they perform. So next is very noisy and then very blurry. Between the 3, I actually prefer normal. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to increase the remove blur slider to about 85. I can now get a larger view of this mode by double clicking on the quadrant. And then I can zoom out just a little bit to get a broader view. Right away, the details are really impressive. You have more of that information in the eye and the beak, and especially in the feathers and fur behind on the back of the neck. If I click and hold with my mouse or trackpad, you can see the original. And then when I let go, you can see the improvements with Sharpen AI. Now that I'm ready, I'll click Apply to commit these changes and return back to Adobe Photoshop. Now that we're back in Photoshop, I can go ahead and zoom in a little bit and position the layer over here, and then we can toggle it to see the original and the Sharpen AI edit. Now I mentioned that I like to convert my layers to smart objects. And the reason for that is, let's say I want to make some changes to the edit that I made with Sharpen AI. All I have to do is go to the smart object layer and then double click on this line where it says Topaz Sharpen AI. And that will bring me back into Sharpen AI, and it'll remember the AI mode and model, as well as any of the slider settings that I've applied. So if I want, I can go ahead and change the slider and then click Apply to return back to Adobe Photoshop with those changes made. And that's how you would send your photos from Adobe Photoshop into Sharpen AI.